I'm Tom Pope, and as a community activist with my associate, Glenn, we are examining the problems of how communities can work better together. Glenn?
Yeah, so we're investigating the conversation of gentrification, and when I take a look at what is gentrification, there's a couple different definitions, but one is the process of renovating or improving a house or district so that it conforms to middle class taste. So that's one take on it. Wikipedia says gentrification is a process of renovating deteriorated urban neighborhoods by means of the influx of more affluent residents. This is a common and controversial topic in politics and in urban planning. The Urban Dictionary says once the process of gentrification starts in a district, it goes on rapidly until all or most of the original working class occupants are displaced and the whole society is changed or impacted. So those
Of the three definitions you gave, it was only the urban definition that even mentioned the term working class.
Yes. Yeah.
But neither of the three really mentioned the incredible change that this has on people who have to move out.
Right. It doesn't take into consideration, and I think that's been the biggest problem area for most people when they hear the term gentrification. That means that new people are coming out, and the displacement of the current population or the people who grew up in that neighborhood no longer can afford to live in that neighborhood. And when you look at it from a real estate standpoint, what happens is that you come in with new apartments, new, not so much businesses, but new kinds of apartments that you're trying to get a different factor of people coming in, drives the increases the rent in the surrounding area. So let's say a downtown area gets gentrified with high or luxury apartments, so on and so forth. The surrounding areas also rise to the demand of that local area because you now have higher prices. And so the residents, the landlords that are in that area increase the price. So now you've got, if you don't own the property and you're renting, either as a business or a resident, you now have an increased cost, and you may not be able to sustain your business or remain there.
One of the news pieces I saw recently indicated this is a natural process of a changing demographic. I think that really slides greatly over what's happening socially. And another news article indicated that this is a product of developers being limited in what they can develop. If more affordable housing was available for them to get involved with, they would be going a little bit more in that direction rather than the high-priced condos. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense in that the new development. So there's an interesting complexity to it. If you want people to build new apartments, for example, the developer's got to have an incentive. What is their incentive? They're in business to make money. So they come in and you give they usually get price breaks. Could be preferred loans, could be tax breaks, so on and so forth. But anyway, so they look at what they need to do. And in order to make the financing of the development project work, they have to come in rents at a certain level for their profitability. Okay, great. So they do that, but in doing so, you now have caused a domino effect to the entire community, because you're now, as you said, you're now talking about economic, you're now talking about social impact, you're talking about a few of the side effects of this new development. You know, everybody likes new development. Everyone wants to turn the area around, and if the area isn't doing well, they want to bring in some new development and do something. However, how do you then index it inside of the conversation of affordable housing? You know, how do you mitigate that you've now created a whole new infrastructure in a particular neighborhood that didn't exist before? And so now in bringing in this new higher priced product into the mix, you've now disrupted the ecosystem of that particular neighborhood, socially and economically.
Now, one prime example of a major change in New York could be the new Amazon headquarters. Have you, well, you must have been aware of the Queens anti-gentrification project.
Yes.
They seem to be extremely focused right now on stopping Amazon. They have a lot of organizations that are supporting them, including, let's see, the Brooklyn College Union, Crash Hunter, CUNY's A Struggle, Decolonize This Place, Politics Reborn. These seem to be organized to try to prevent Amazon from moving in. According to their position statement, Amazon is not welcome in New York City. And they state they will not meet or communicate with any Amazon official or communicate with any politicians who have endorsed this. They're going to oppose Amazon entirely. Is this type of action likely to help or produce anything that could delay Amazon or help the community?
Well, you know, anytime that you are bringing new jobs to the mix, that's a good thing. However, in this particular case, and there are other cases like it, I'm sure, but in this particular case, the fact that it didn't go through the normal process, number one, is disruptive, because the community and the city council really didn't have a say in terms of what was being negotiated. Number two, there were major concessions made to get them to select New York and Long Island City as their particular site. Now, there were many cities competing for the glamour of these jobs. Now, the question that city council members asked Amazon was, well, here you are, a multi-million-dollar company, or probably billion-dollar company, um, what are you going to do for the surrounding community? Um, and you've gotten a lot, but what are you, what are you going to provide the community? How many of those jobs are actually going to be for local people? Because if it's the headquarters and they're talking about a heliport and all this stuff, you're talking about the high-end executives. So are the high-end executives going to be coming from that local area? Probably not. The other issue is that this particular site that's been selected also was sanctioned for an affordable housing that is now shifted to support Amazon having enough space to build their headquarters. So
Oh, when you say shift, you actually mean there will not be affordable housing.
right, yes, yes. So the affordable housing has been displaced, which, as you know, as a New Yorker, we have a huge problem with homelessness, and the mayor's tactic around providing affordable housing is a way to help that. And now we've kind of like took a step back to give these corporate giants. Um, so
Now, one
yeah,
other item. You mentioned anything that provides jobs for the community, helps the community. Shouldn't we ask a further step, though? What type of job? If the job is such a stressful job where the worker is frowned upon to go to the restroom, is that the type of job we want in the community?
well, I think there are several different flavors of it, and of course, um, the officials at Amazon are going to give you the corporate line, as they should, because that's what they work for, right? But you're probably talking about low level jobs. Let's be realistic about what you're actually bringing in. So you're not talking about necessarily high end executive type jobs that you're bringing in. You then look at how are people going to be getting to your locale? Is that convenient? So now you're impacting the ridership of already congested number 7 line, or whatever other transportation that you're
But
going to be using to get there.
right, well, that's talking about um, on another level. I'm talking about the working condition within whatever facility we're talking about. If the working condition inside is so bad that the worker can't go to the restroom, has no time to breathe, can't even nibble on a snack, is the job really beneficial?
Well, true. No, if that were the scenario, definitely would not. Now, the issue is that we don't really know what they're planning, and we as a community need to have some say about that long before they break ground. So those are the kinds of conversations that city council um, would have liked to have had before a deal was cut, because basically this deal was cut with the mayor and the governor negotiating directly with Amazon. And so they bypassed the local infrastructure, the local elected officials, and so forth, and 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 the community now, because what they normally have is a ULURP process, and the ULURP process allows for the community board, the borough president, to weigh in on the decision making long before it gets to city council and the mayor's office. So it goes through that cycle, um, and city planning actually reviews it. So you've got steps that go through that ensure that we understand, or at least have an idea of what's being planned, and then have some accountability or some way of holding them to task.
Well, I think we'll be speaking more about this in the future. For for some final words, what would you say?
Well, what I would say is that the community board has to be in the forefront of this conversation and letting the members of the community know what's going on and what the true impacts are, and need to start asking the questions, the same questions that city council members are asking. Because let's be clear, the elected officials that are there now may not be the ones there 4 years, 6 years from now, and so we as a community need to have uh, alliances or organizations that are now plugged into this conversation that are going to stay connected.
I think my final words might actually come from the area of well, the recent holidays, where many of us may have reconnected with Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And I'm thinking about the idea that Scrooge would help Cratchit and actually provide maybe for the better health of Tiny Tim. I'm thinking of Mr. Fezziwig, Scrooge's first employer, who provided entertainment for the staff. Maybe we should be asking Jeff Bezos to contribute some of his millions per hour that he makes to pour some of that into the community so that the community has more affordable housing, even if he's making a tiny bit less on the dollar.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, I don't know that unless you go through the scenes that occur in Dickens, so that you force that person to reflect on their life. If we're be able to cause a transformation in the thinking. But I think that Amazon will be pushed because New Yorkers don't like to be pushed around by anybody. So it'll be interesting. So we'll definitely have some more conversations about this.
Well, we'll speak further.
Thank you. Take care, folks out there. Go ahead, Tom.
You're stopping the recording?
I'm stopping it now. Yes. If I can find, oh, here it is. Recording.